Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the PokerNews Podcast. It's your girl, Sarah Herring, joined by Jeff Platt and Chad Holloway. We've got an awesome show for you this week. It's kind of a bittersweet show. Our boy, Mo Nuwwarah, someone who's been with PokerNews for, I want to say, around a decade. He is leaving us for greener pastures. We will certainly miss him, but we have him as our guest this week talking about all kinds of memories, juicy gossip, the deep inner workings of the poker world that maybe you guys might miss sometimes when we clean it all up for you, glossy on the front page. Chad, I know you're sick, so I'm not going to make you do very much work this episode. How are you otherwise?
Yeah, just a little under the weather with a cold, but it was bittersweet, as you said. Mo is leaving. He's been with PokerNews for 8 years. I actually remember the day I met him. I trained him at a World Series of Poker circuit stop at Horseshoe Council Bluffs, which is right outside Omaha, where he lives. And we hired him to work the World Series of Poker. And then the first ever event he worked at the WSOP was the 2013 Casino Employees event. He was there every step of the way. I went on to victory. And so me and Mo have worked side by side ever since then and been close friends and colleagues. Had many adventures. I'm very sad to see him go, but happy he has this new opportunity. And we chat in our interview about, his favorite stops, his favorite stories, and just really look back at his PokerNews career.
People are always asking me about my favorite interviews over the years, and somehow I always forget to mention your winner interview from the Casino Employees event. Like, that should be like a snap call for me every time. But it was so long ago, Chad. I can barely remember yesterday.
It was kind of funny. Donnie Peters tweeted a couple days ago. It was the 8th anniversary, if you will. It was 8 years to the day when I had won, and I was like, okay, well, 8 years ago today, I was having one of the best moments of my life. And here I am at a family cookout playing silly games and winning toilet paper and hand soap as my prizes instead of a bracelet and lots of money. But, I'm looking forward to getting back out for the WSOP this fall, maybe playing a couple of events and, like everybody else, see if we can't make a run at the gold.
Well, Jeff, over in the city of Sin, which, by the way, if you guys have not gotten your housing and things together for the World Series of Poker, you need to get it going now because I've been doing some research the last couple of weeks and things are going like hotcakes. Las Vegas is on fire. And Jeff, you can probably speak to us a little bit about this. No more plexiglass, no more masks.
Yeah.
It's time to party.
Vegas is back. It's time to party when not just Chad feels better, but Sarah, you feel better as well. You both are fighting through this under the weather. It's impressive. You got to get out here to Las Vegas, Nevada, because we are back. The masks are not gone. They are optional. And the plexiglass is gone as of June 1st. That was yesterday. The Venetian was the final one to take down their plexiglass. Helped out a little bit by Daniel Negreanu, who, as a joke, he wasn't like actually seriously mad, tried to kick a plexiglass thing, and it actually did fall down after he lost a big pot against Chris Brewer. So the high rollers have been rolling here in Las Vegas. They'll really get rolling this week as we start the US Poker Open. It's one of the most prestigious high roller series. It's full of 10K events, of 25K events, and then a 50K main event. That series starts on Thursday. That would be tomorrow. We're recording this podcast on a Wednesday. Our coverage of it on Poker Go starts on Friday. Chad, Sarah, we are back. We did it. We made it.
I'm excited. We're going to be doing lots of coverage, recaps, some feature content around the US Poker Open. I'll, of course, be watching it on Poker Go every day. And there was some great lead-in. Like you just mentioned, Jeff, the high rollers that took place at Venetian, they were part of the Venetian Summer Deep Stack Championship, but also because of their buy-ins were part of the Poker Go Tour. And so there were a trio of events. There were 2 10K buy-ins and a 25K buy-in. It was in that 25K where Negreanu broke the plexiglass. Like you said, it was joking. It was a fun moment. It was captured. It was turned into a gift. But it does make me wonder, like, if it was you or I or Average Joe who did that in a joking manner, I don't think it would have been so well received. I think we might have got a security escort out, maybe had to pay for for the plexiglass, but alas, this is a 25K. We know that these poker celebrities get a little more leeway than the average guy. But Negreanu did not cash. That's why he had his moment. He essentially bubbled in 10th place when 7 were paid, and it was won by one Sean Perry for $365,000. Sean Perry's kind of been a little controversial as of late.
Yeah.
He was on High Stakes Poker Season 8 and pretty polarizing in that, I mean, I'll say it, like I found him extremely annoying and grating and just not, not a pleasure to watch, if you will. Just I don't know, trying too hard.
Yeah.
Telling stories about, driving too fast and being young, just kind of immature, if you will. And he was also involved with Dan Coleman, called him out on social media for basically running what he alleges is a scam in some daily fantasy sports betting that he was part of. And whether or not that happens, who knows? But Coleman did air that out. But Sean Perry gets a victory here, $365,000, defeated Bill Klein, heads up. Now, Bill Klein is a guy who's been getting a lot of love as of late. I think we talked about it before, Jeff. Wasn't there a day not long ago he won a high roller at Aria after he had made a hole-in-one at the golf course?
It's the life of Bill Klein. I mean, the man is an absolute legend. He plays poker and he plays golf at Shadow Creek, well recognized as one of the best golf courses in the country. The guy is an absolute stud, treats everybody with the same amount of respect, which is maximum respect. You mentioned Sean Perry's win. It's his second win on the PokerGo Tour. Ali Amshurovich has 5 wins on the PokerGo Tour. So it goes Ali with 5, Sean Perry with 2, and then some players with 1. So Ali is almost running away with this whole thing before we even get to the first series. I agree with you on Sean Perry. He does not come across well, to say the very least. You hope, to your point, that he is young. He's going to watch himself back and think, you know what, I needed to change a couple things here and there. But you might also hope on the side, and I'm sure Sarah agrees with this, some villains are kind of good for the game, right? I mean, wrestlers, the heel needs to win sometimes to upset the crowd. So I'm kind of sort of okay with having a villain as we enter the US Poker Open.
I'm with you. I love a good villain. And actually, even as I was scrolling PokerNews the last few days, this image just kept popping out to me, him like behind these 2 plexiglass things. Kudos to whomever was the photographer for this like Venetian picture, because he looks like a villain full on, but like it's just a great picture. I feel sorry for photographers who are like having to deal with the plexiglass and all this stuff, because this was a fantastic image. And I think in a time when it's really difficult to capture images. Well, we have tons more news for you guys. We want to talk a lot WPT. We've got some GG Super Millions, some names you guys are definitely going to recognize. But let's just take a quick break and give thanks to our sponsors, Elite Chip Care.
Dirty and unsanitary? Elite Chip Care's ultrasonic cleaners kill bacteria and pathogens without using chemicals. Protect your team from potentially hazardous chemicals, UV, and gases. For daily sanitizing of your chips, our laboratory oven will eradicate most viruses using only heat. Up to 2,500 chips sanitized in just 3 minutes. Avoid the reoccurring expense of costly chemicals, UV bulbs, and gases. Safe, inexpensive, and sustainable. Visit EliteChipCare.com.
Well, it seemed like a week with tons of big high roller victories, tons of names you guys are going to recognize. But this was a story I feel like probably lots of people were following anyways, because Jaime Staples is a face that everyone recognizes and loves. He is certainly one of the most hardworking players, I think, in poker. He takes his streaming and his entertainment very seriously, like a business, but he's also, one of those players. He doesn't play a lot of these huge, crazy events. He doesn't, take too many wild chances, and he booked his biggest career score to date in the WPT Online Series Event 24, WPT 500, taking 3rd for about $75,000. I did not see the stream. Did either of you guys tune in? Did he stream this?
Yeah, he did. I watched it for a little bit, and I think, like you said, Sarah, he's kind of a man of the people. He's very relatable. He's very down to earth. He's not playing all the 25Ks of the world. And props to him. It's a career best score for him. Like you said, it's almost $75,000. And it was at a pretty stacked final table. Toon Moller was in the mix. He finished in 5th. Simon Lofberg finished in 6th. Lucas Hafner in 8th. And the winner, David Offawork out of the United Kingdom, taking down more than $160,000. But it's just cool. You know, I mean, when a community like that rallies behind their guy for an awesome score, it was just awesome. It was awesome to see. He's one of the good guys in the business. We all know that. So congratulations to him.
For sure. And I want to say it was just a couple months ago that he had another deep run in, a big event. And he was very open about his soul being essentially crushed. And he was just devastated. He didn't get to any place where I think he felt really good about it. So to see him come out with that kind of a score, I think is a little extra. I don't know if it's vindication, but it's like, you just got to keep trucking along, people. You'll get your big score eventually. And while we're on the subject of the WPT, Alex Foxen shipped the WPT online series high roller title. He recently got engaged. Whoop, whoop. For those who are looking for the juicy gossip, you guys know my theory on things. If you get engaged or your girl gets pregnant, you're definitely going to win some things. You've got that life run good that runs into your poker run good. He'll take home a little more than $250,000 for that win. And again, another just, of course, ridiculous final table. And really the whole field, the entire way was crazy. And let's just keep it moving. I was just having a conversation with someone about Anatoly Filatov this morning.
Love that guy.
Anatoly Filatov ships the GG Super Millions. It's funny. I think the conversation I was having was in regards to, I don't know if you guys remember, but the WCOOP champions used to get like an actual piece of jewelry. It was like a bracelet, like a real bracelet. And they would either ship this to people or sometimes they would show up at the poker players' houses and deliver them. And this year that I was in Deauville, must have been ages ago, they decided to do a big WCOOP bracelet ceremony sort of party. And they brought all the WCOOP winners to Deauville to give them all their bracelets, which was probably a very smart move because certainly everyone who got all the way to Deauville probably also played a bunch of events while they were there. But this was when I very first met Anatoly Filatov. I only knew him as No Limit Prophet or NL Prophet or something like that. And he had his little bow tie on and his little like cute colored pants. And I was like, I don't know, man, this guy, his English isn't the best, but he's got this attitude. I feel like he's going somewhere. And did he ever? Anatoly basically took over the world, and he also just had a baby. So it kind of makes sense. You want to talk a little Super Millions there, Chad, or you want to should I just leave you out of this episode?
I'm happy to jump in here. It was 149 runners in the GG Poker Super Millions. This is a 10K. We talk about it almost every week. It's a weekly tournament, one of the most prestigious and definitely GG Poker's premier event. And Bruno Volkmann out of Brazil almost won it for the 3rd time. I don't know if he was a winner last week or the week before. It was recent, and then he had taken another title earlier and almost made it 3, but ended up finishing runner-up to Filatov for $250,000. So very exciting. David Peters, Ike Haxton, Juan Pardo, Elio Fox also among those at the final table. So I feel like the GG Poker Super Millions is one of those online titles where you haven't made it until you've won this title, so to speak. It's kind of like the winning a bracelet or winning a WPT or winning something in the live realm. If you want to be known as a good online player, you got to win the GG Poker Super Millions, which I think is a strong statement given that this is a relatively new tournament. They've just built up the prestige. The fields have been great. They do a lot of media coverage around it, streams and such, and it just really has become a premier online event.
I agree with that. I mean, we see stacked fields day in, day out. Sarah, by the way, was Deauville nice? I think I bubbled a satellite to EPT Deauville back in college, and that was my one chance at making, buying into a EPT event. or any event?
I mean, was Deauville nice? That's just such a loaded question.
Yeah.
Actually, I quite like Deauville. I think it's
Okay.
very quaint, but yeah, it's like, you know, it lacked certain things in the wintertime. It was a very cold time of year to go to the, you know, Normandy region of France, but some good food, clearly like beautiful, beautiful places to stay. I always enjoyed it either way. But don't beat yourself up about it. It's definitely, if you miss like the PCA or something like that, then you really need to just be mad. Well, while we were talking a little bit about the Super Millions, I think we should go ahead and give a shout out to our sponsors, GGPoker, who I think we have some secret details to share with you guys very soon, but I have to confirm we may be a few weeks away, but GGPoker has some really cool stuff coming up. And I think by the time we get to the World Series, they're going to basically blow all of our minds. All right, let's hear what Kevin Martin had to say.
Kevin Martin from GGPoker here, and I just gotta ask, have you heard about GG Care? Oh, you haven't? Well, guess what? It's the new daily promotion that rewards you for experiencing all the bad luck poker has to offer. You know, the bad beats, the coolers, the suckouts, they're so frustrating. We hate them so much, but they cannot be avoided. But now, if you experience a bad beat on GGPoker, GG Care has your back. You'll automatically be registered to play in the next daily $30,000 GG Care flip out tournament. Here's the best part. You don't even have to be online for these flip out tournaments. Yes, you still have a chance for cash to go right into your balance. So remember, next time you're on GGPoker and you take a bad beat, GG Care has your back. So if you have not joined the fastest online growing website, then make sure you join the GGPoker community and join me at the tables very soon.
Well, we know now that GG and the World Series of Poker are intimately tied together. I think we can thank GG for lots of things that are going to make the World Series of Poker one of the best this year ever, besides the fact that there's no more plexiglass and no more masks, which I'm also very excited about. But Niklas Astedt leads the final 9 of the GGPoker World Series of Poker circuit main event. And I just feel like, is there a circuit event going on that we're not talking about, Niklas? Is he like, is he ever like busting a tournament?
You know, that's why you can make the legitimate argument that he's the best online tournament player in the world. I think he's final tabled the Super Millions 25% of the time, which is absolutely absurd. This is the biggest World Series of Poker circuit main event in history as far as attendance is concerned. 14,496 entries. GG had set a high bar with a $5 million guarantee. That was blown out of the water. More than $7.2 million in the prize pool. As Sarah said, Astedt, Lena 900, does take the chip lead into that final table. A couple of recognizable names. David Misakowski is in the mix. Patrick Tardif, Egyptian from the GG squad, will be streaming this one. He enters the final table in 6th place. This is a massive spot for him. There's more than $750,000 up top. You can catch the action. Final table, cards up coverage, ggpoker.tv. Brent Hanks and I on the call Saturday, 2:30 p.m. Eastern. Relatively sure that that's the correct time. 11:30 a.m. Pacific. So let's make some magic happen. Come join us. Be fun. Good times.
What's been going on with you and old Brent Hanks lately? What have you guys been up to? Just making good content?
Yep, that's just what we do. We make good content. We make a little bit of money and then dust it off at the video poker machines. It's kind of just been our plan all along. We're going to ramp it up for US Poker Open. We're going to take a 1 day off from there to call this GG event. It's going to be awesome.
You got to make a little bit of money on this side, but I love to see a couple of homies, you know, who love the game, commentating, then releasing all of their money. Chad, you've spent many years with Mo Nuwwarah. Some might say you two are also like a peanut butter and jelly, or like a I don't know, like maybe the Dumb and Dumber guys, or I'm trying to think of like a really good duo that we love. But I, you know, as a member of the PokerNews family, I have to say Mo is someone that I really have just grown to respect and appreciate. I think he's someone who, he comes off as so humble and chill and just casual that sometimes he gets sometimes I think people might miss just how incredibly sharp and how competent he is. And certainly whomever hired him did not miss that. And we will miss him so much at Poker News. Chad, lead us into this little spot with our boy Mo.
Yeah, it's very bittersweet, Sarah. I think you, I, and Mo were kind of the longest reigning Poker News tenured teammates, and we're losing one now. He's got a great new job offer he talks a little bit about, so we certainly don't fault him for that, and wish him the best. It's sad for us, of course. Like you said, he's very competent. He's done a lot of great work, both as a live reporter. He's been on the Poker News podcast before. He is a stellar content producer, just one of those guys who I know is going to get the job done right the first time, and I'm certainly going to miss that. It's like being on a sports team and losing your teammates, or that stud that you have and can always rely on. The Tom Brady losing Rob Gronkowski sort of thing. But Mo is, it's interesting. He's from Omaha, Nebraska, and before he got involved with Poker News, he was just doing your standard menial kind of jobs. I think he was a waiter, a server, doing those sort of jobs, and then got his foot in the door with Poker News, and here he is now 8 years later, having traveled the world. We talk about a lot of the stops that he's been to, his favorite experiences, some along with me. One that sticks out was our trip to Panama, which we share some stories about. Talk about some people that he's met, the friends that he's made, and some of the stories that he's written. And Mo's a hell of a poker player as well. He's won 2 rings during his stint with Poker News. He finished runner-up in an MSPT event. And I'm kind of excited now that he's going to have more opportunities to play. He's not going to be working the World Series of Poker for us, which means he can play it. He can play the main event for the first time. I talked to him about that. And I'll tell you what, I feel like we're going to be talking about Mo even more on Poker News, but as a capacity as a player as opposed to a team member. But here is my conversation with my friend, my colleague, Mo Nuwwarah. All right, I am joined by our guest this week, a guy I've known for 8 years now. I've worked side by side with him at many a poker stop. Bittersweet conversation, as this is a farewell of sorts, as Mo Nuwwarah, famed live reporter, content producer, article writer, sports betting degenerate, my friend, is leaving Poker News. But Mo, before you do, one last podcast, one last chance to talk and share some of your favorite memories. Welcome to the Poker News Podcast.
What's up, man? Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Yeah, I knew when you were leaving. Today, in fact, is June 1st. It's your last day. And I said, well, you got to hop on the air, be our guest this week. Let's talk about some of the career highlights, if you will, from your 8 years with Poker News. And it actually started you and I kind of. I remember it very distinctly. It was the WSOP circuit at Horseshoe Council Bluffs, which is right there in Omaha, which is where you're from. And I trained you and another reporter, and it obviously went well because here you are 8 years later.
Yeah, like when I started, I definitely imagined doing a lot of the things I ended up doing. Did not imagine I'd still be in the saddle 8 years later, still writing about poker. But, it's been great. So probably, well, I would say the best experience of my professional career, but it's the only experience of my professional career, pretty much. I think every other job I've had has been like just shit hourly jobs, So Poker News was, well, a shit hourly job for me when I first started, but it evolved into something a lot better.
Well, we'll jump ahead here. Why don't you tell everybody why you're leaving and where you're headed?
So I got a real strong job offer from Katina Media. It is another affiliate, more on the sports side, but they have some poker stuff as well. But I'll be much more heavily on the sports. They said the door is kind of open for me if I want to write some poker stuff. I'm guessing I'll be too busy with the sports stuff, but yeah, another love of mine, like you said, sports betting. Been a sports betting degen for 10 plus years, sports fan for much, much longer than that. So should hopefully be a good fit for me as well.
I think anybody listening that knows you, that has seen you at a live poker tournament, is used to watching you watching the TV, whether it's a baseball game, football game, basketball game on the air. I know that sports is a big passion of yours. In fact, you do a sports-driven podcast alongside Donnie Peters, who's the old Poker News podcast host, Rich Ryan, who was also a former Poker News podcast host, and then, of course, Brett Colson, who was formerly of Poker News as well, called Gridiron Gamble. Is that going to continue as well?
Yeah, it's going to continue, I believe. May not be in the same. It's not like 100% sure whether I'm going to transition like Brett did into like only one show a week or whatever. I got to talk to them some more about it. But yeah, it's all good for me to keep that going. And it's just kind of funny looking back. All four of us, I think all four of us maybe didn't work for Poker News when we started. I think maybe Rich was already transitioned out, but three of the four and all four had worked at Poker News within a year of that, and now none of us left.
It's crazy to think. Like I said, I remember that first stop very well, and that was actually the precursor to hiring you for the World Series of Poker in 2013. Give you a little test run, make sure you did well at Horseshoe Council Bluffs, which you did, and then you joined us in Vegas that summer, and it ended up being a very special moment for me in that your first ever event that you live reported at the World Series of Poker was training alongside Kim Ewell on the casino employees event, one that I just happened to be in and win, and you were there doing the updates every step of the way.
Yeah, that was a pretty amazing sequence of events. I mean, literally, yeah, my first words ever written for Poker News in a paid capacity was covering your bracelet win. And yeah, I mean, just kind of having to hang back and you were the only person I was like really knowing at that point, so it was just kind of a weird feeling watching everybody just kind of celebrate and skip buck for you that was over there. And just me not kind of being able to join in and being like, okay, I think I need to like sit here and be a little bit objective and finish writing my article here. I think I wrote the recap.
Yeah, I've read back through those updates a time or two and read some of the big hands. And it was cool that you and Kim captured that. And of course, she worked for Poker News for a good long while there as well. And since that tournament, I mean, you've covered hundreds of tournaments across the country, across the world. Tell me a little bit about, some of your favorite experiences or favorite stops.
Man, there's been so many. It's like so hard to even think
I hear
about.
you, man. I was there for a lot of them. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
I think some of the coolest places I've been for sure would be like, I think Aussie Millions, man. I mean, that one's a tough one to beat. It's just like, there's so much you can do down there, and Melbourne's such a great city, and just, you have so many options and options that are kind of accessible around there. There's pretty easy public transport. There's the little trams and stuff, and a lot of stuff you can walk to that are in the area. You can literally just, if you're down for a little longer walk, you can go watch, which I did the first literally day I think I landed. I went to the Australian Open women's final, and that was awesome. Like, I don't know anything hardly about tennis, but I still really enjoyed seeing, two world-class tennis players go at it for a title. I mean, it was just so cool. And that's just the thing about the job, it really lets you get to so many places and meet so many people that you never, I guess, would have imagined you would have done in your life. And I think, honestly, even though I've seen a lot of cool places and done a lot of cool things, like, the best memories are definitely all the cool people you meet in the industry. I mean, no doubt poker has a lot of scumbags in it, but also a lot of really cool people too.
Yeah, I know you're good friends with like Jan Kores, who's over there in the Czech Republic, a guy, I'm friends with too. We probably never would have met if it wasn't for poker. You're good friends with Josh Reichard, who's a Wisconsin boy, the pride and joy of Wisconsin. And, let's rattle off some of the places that you've been. I've been to some of them with you, but like you said, they kind of blend together. So you've been to Prague, right? We've been to EPT Prague.
Yeah, so that's my most traveled to spot, I think, internationally. Either Prague or Monte Carlo for sure. I guess maybe Bahamas too. I think 3 or 4 times to all of those places. Yeah, so connecting with Jan was like just an awesome thing for me, because not only did I have a local guide to show me around Prague, which is amazing, a great city, and just a city that has a lot to offer, but having a local guide who can just like, it's really something special. Just like, he's like, oh, we're going to go here. I'm like, cool. What do we got to do? Well, first we got to take this train. Then we got to take this tram. Then we got to take this bus, but he knows what to do. So I'm just following him, and he's showing me the sites, and Prague is obviously fantastic, and would highly recommend anybody on the poker tour in general who has a chance to go play there, go check it out. Like, we had Josh come up a couple years ago, and he stayed with me when I was working it, and we took a couple days, saw some sites. Jan took us out, and then we even took Jan's dad's car to Berlin for a couple days, and that was a great time. So, I mean, yeah, it just opened up a lot of doors,
Did you do any stops in Asia, the Asian market?
Yeah, actually, I did make it to Seoul for PokerStars. God, what did they call those things? Not the championships, PokerStars Festival. PokerStars Festival, that year that they changed all the names, we went up to, Jan and I had it kind of circled for that, because he's working on the PokerStars side of things. For people who don't know who he is, he's like their main media coordinator for a lot of the tournament stops. So he's working for PokerStars over there, and we just both basically requested to work it for our respective companies. And we took some extra 4 days, I think, at the end, and we explored Seoul, and that was really, really awesome. We hiked like 10 miles up this mountain and checked out a Korean baseball game. I mean, we packed some stuff into those days for sure, and just an awesome experience. Another spot I would definitely recommend anyone check out. Sadly, I never made it to Macau, which is kind of, when I first started, one of the places I wanted to see. But people tell me it's not that great. So maybe you can tell me what I missed. I don't know. You made it to Macau once, right?
I did. I actually never made it to South Korea, so I'm kind of jealous on that one. I have been to Macau. It was a fun experience. I'm glad I got to check it out. I wouldn't be in a hurry to go back, I guess, is the best way to put it. It was fine. It was fun, but maybe it would help, like you said, like if I had a connection there that was more local and could speak the language and take me out a little bit more. I'm sure it would be a lot more fun than it was, but it was enjoyable. I had a good time, but it was a long ways away from home. As you well know, spending a lot of time in an airplane, and that particular one was 16 hours just from Chicago to Hong Kong. So pretty rough. Real quick, we were talking about Jan and your adventures in the hiking, and it reminded me of one of my favorite stops that we did together. And Jan was there as well as Neil Stoddard, and that was the PokerStars Festival down in Panama. This was, I don't know, roughly 3-4 years ago, something like that. We went down a few days early, went kayaking, checked out the sites. That was among my favorite poker trips I've ever done.
Yeah, that was going to be the next one I brought up, honestly, too, after Melbourne, was Panama. We got there, had dinner the first night, and then we just kind of started hitting it after that. I remember we hooked up with that cab driver. We got his number, and he showed up, scooped us at 5 a.m. so he could take us out to, we went kayaking that one day. And that's still, I was just telling someone the other day, because I actually just went on vacation and got sunburned. Nothing will ever compare to that sunburn I got when we went kayaking. I very foolishly did not coat my legs, because I was used to my legs never getting sunburned. I focused on my upper body, but the way you're sitting in the kayak, the sun beats right down on your legs, and they got absolutely roasted, and I could barely walk that entire week at work. And that sucked. But other than that, we had a great time.
I remember it too, because I think Jan and Neil both got sunburned, and I didn't, because years and years ago I learned my lesson really hardcore on a sunburn, and ever since then I'm like SPF 100 all over me. Just did it at Gary Gates's wedding in Mexico. I was lathered up head to toe. That sun can be a bitch, and it definitely wrecked you. I remember the next day you were not venturing out at all. So
yeah, that was real painful. But yeah, we got to see some awesome stuff in Panama for sure. I had to fight through it a little bit. We went on some cool hikes over there. We went through a hike in a literal rainforest, so that was pretty awesome. I remember that was the day that dude came at 5 a.m. to scoop us. We had to make arrangements because nobody was going to get up early enough to like flag down a cab. I don't even know if you could flag down a cab that early. We had to like he gave us his business card, and we made arrangements so he could scoop us at 5, because we needed to get to that jungle at like 6 a.m. to see stuff, because the active period for the wildlife and stuff is in the morning. Then they drove us out in that little Jeep. Remember that? I was just looking. Yeah. And then, yeah,
I was wearing a fedora and it blew off.
Yeah.
And we couldn't stop because we were in the back of this truck. And so when we finally did stop, I told the guy, look for it on your way back. And he did find it. He gave it back to me at the end of the day.
What a hero. We were waiting to see if a monkey was going to be wearing it up in the, because we went and saw, remember we saw that like whole family of monkeys even. That was just like an awesome experience. Just saw some wildlife over there. Thankfully, no big jungle cat predators. But yeah, really cool experience. I mean, to just be able to go on a walk through a rainforest and yeah, just nobody out there too. Like, I don't remember if we ran into a single soul out there. And then, yeah, we went out for drinks that night in Panama. It was just a great time.
We've been to some great places. I know that you've met some great people. Have you met anybody kind of famous? I know I've crossed paths. We've been at some like PokerStar stops where they've had some other celebrities there. Have you met any of them? Have you interviewed them? Anything that really sticks out in that regard?
Yeah, a couple for sure that I remember. So one, that Panama trip, actually, it was funny. My buddy flew in also, and because he works for an airline, he can get just cheap flights willy-nilly. If there's a seat, basically, he can just get on and just take a flight. He managed to get a flight down there, and he wanted to go out partying. And I think it was the same night as it turned out to be, yeah, the same night the PokerStars people took out Tito Ortiz. Because if you remember, Tito Ortiz was down there as like a little promotional thing. And man, we ended up at the same bar as them. I don't remember if they were texting me or if I just happened to run into them over there, but it was like in a nice like nightlife part of town. And yeah, we just went up. They had bottle service and a private little spot in there. We just kind of moseyed our way in and started joining in the fun over there. We did not have to pay for any drinks, so that was a good time. And yeah, just Tito Ortiz didn't say much to us though. He was from my recollection, he was a little inebriated. He was just kind of sitting there, just chilled out and just, yeah, wasn't interacting with too many people. And then there was also the time I interviewed Sergio Garcia at Bahamas. That was pretty cool. He seemed to be like a pretty down-to-earth, nice guy. And I would say another one for sure. I would say the most famous person is probably James Woods. Not a surprise for most poker people. Who understand that, James plays a lot of events. Like I ran into him at Borgata and then at WSOP as well. And so I want to say it was 2015, the first year we weren't doing live updates because we needed to do features. And I think that was the year he beat Doug Polk. I want to say he was kind of deep in the 10K heads up. And so not only did I kind of write a little feature about that, but I interviewed James and wrote a little feature about his like poker career, I guess you could call it, as a side hobby. And yeah, he was, that's what when I would want to show a girl to impress her that I had a famous person's number, I would show her James Woods, that I have his number in my phone.
There you go. What about, I mean, you've written a ton for PokerNews over the years. I've pulled up your editor's page, which just has pages and pages of articles you've written. Are there any that really stand out as far as pieces that you are particularly proud of or that, you enjoyed writing, things like that?
I think some of the long features over the years have been definitely my favorite things to produce. So the feature I wrote about Tana and the Run Good Poker Tour was, I remember, a particularly memorable, longer piece, really awesome. Interviewed, 3 or 4 people for it. And Tana's just great. Tana, and he really has a passion for what he does and really kind of approaches the poker industry in a different way than a lot of people, like not looking to make a quick buck, looking to have a good time, looking to hang out with a lot of other people that he likes and just provide a great experience for all the players, whether he knows them or not, and yeah, I think it was really fun to write about something that I guess I do really believe is something special in the poker world. Tana really does try to provide a different and fun experience, and I think they do a great job of it. Another one would for sure be the piece I wrote last year in pandemic, the Chip Tick series. It was a 2-parter where I did an oral history of Chip Tick. For people who don't know, it was a system that was kind of like a combination of Bravo and PokerNews' MyStack app. And it was back in 2012. So kind of a little bit on the cutting edge back then, and maybe came along a little too early because they ultimately were undone by some technical issues. And it was just a really interesting thing, particularly for me, knowing that I hadn't been there, and I had to really approach it as somebody who was trying to learn everything about it, because this was the year before I started with Poker News. And it was just fascinating, honestly, to learn a lot about it. I think I interviewed 7 or 8 people for that oral history. Ended up being a 2-parter, something like 4,000 or 5,000 words, pretty long piece. And then after that, so it was really interesting. I got a message from the founder of it, who I had not known a way to get a hold of, and he was on Twitter, and I didn't honestly even think he would really want to talk about it, because it was obviously like big professional failure for him, but he was like, the statute of limitations or whatever. I think it was an NDA, and he had signed an NDA not to talk about what had happened. And he was like, it's actually expired. So if you want to, do an interview, I would be willing to talk to you. So I did a Zoom call with him last summer, I believe. And at the end of the summer, and it was like an hour-long conversation. He was a really interesting person, just a person who, has had a lot of success in the business world. And it's always interesting to talk to these people, just these people who have just really crushed it in one place or another. And, poker for them is just something they do for fun. And I think, these recreational players, people just think of them, oh, these guys are fish or whatever, like, man, a lot of these guys are really sharp and like have really had a lot of big success in a lot of different areas, and it was really interesting to talk to him. And just like, that guy we had whiskey with, that was another interesting experience.
Before we get into that, because that is a great story and we'll talk about it, but it's kind of a great irony about that Chip Tick, right? It was a fantastic series. If you haven't read it and you're listening to this, definitely do. I was around in 2019. I remember Chip Tick coming at the World Series of Poker. PokerNews really wasn't made aware of it, and we were doing updates, and all of a sudden here's this new player in town, and it was very kind of scary. Like, wow, what's going on here? This could put us out of business, so to speak. And then, like you highlight in your article, didn't work out that way, which is kind of one of the great ironies right now. Is that was one of your favorite pieces, one of your best pieces. It's awesome. And had they succeeded, not only would you never have written that piece, there's a good chance you never would have been able to work for Poker News in the first place, because they would have come in the 2013 World Series of Poker, did their thing. We likely wouldn't have needed a team. And, your life has changed. My life has changed. Poker history has changed. But that the cards fell in our favor in that one.
Yeah, it was such a fascinating thing to look back at. And, it's interesting to interview people who just to interview people about something that kind of happened so long ago, because, there's inaccuracies in their memories and shit. And you got to kind of go back and check into some random things and like make sure things are happening as they had said, and it was kind of cool to just take that dive into just an interesting chapter in poker history, honestly. And just a product that definitely had, like you said, huge potential to just change the landscape of poker, but just ultimately failed.
Let's talk about the whiskey guy that you had just mentioned. So I remember this. It was, let me pull it up here real quick, see if I can find it. It was during the WSOP main event. The guy's name is Bill Thomas. So this was during the 2015 WSOP. We learned that there's this guy named Bill Thomas. He's in the field, and he is the owner, proprietor, operator of Jack Rose Dining Saloon in Washington, D.C. Now, Jack Rose is big in the whiskey world. It's like the Borgata of the poker world, kind of, if you will, on the East Coast. It's the biggest whiskey place on the East Coast, the biggest collection. Bill Thomas is a major player in the whiskey industry, and I am a bit of a whiskey aficionado. You found this guy in the field and scored us an invite back to his room at the Rio with him and some of his buddies to do a kind of an impromptu whiskey tasting with what turned out to be some of the most rare and expensive and just really once in a lifetime whiskeys. And I'm talking, he had experimental whiskeys, right? So these whiskey companies consult with him and send him whiskeys to get his thoughts on it. So he let us try some experimental whiskey. He had whiskey like pints from distilleries that haven't existed since the 1970s, some that had burned down, a supply that is decades old and is never going to be replenished. And he's sharing that with us. It was quite amazing. And I remember you kind of saying, I'm not much of a whiskey guy, and me telling you, just try everything and try to enjoy it as much as you can, because this is a very special occasion for us.
Yeah, definitely. First off, can I just say, how much of a hero is Donnie Peters? Like, how did he even find these stories? He's just like, I want you to go interview this guy, Bill Thomas. He owns a huge whiskey bar on the East Coast. I'm like, what? How does he even find these guys in the field? I don't even know how Donnie figures this stuff out. Anyways, yeah, so he sends me over and I flagged the guy down. He seemed very surprised to be like recognized or known, but he was like interested in the interview. He seemed fine with it. So we did the interview, and then he's like, I guess, I don't know, maybe I came off well enough, or maybe he was just like, I'm going to, extend a hand to this guy. He seems like, nice guy. He just goes, you should come up and have a drink with us on dinner break. I'm like, okay. I told you, I was literally just going to have you go. I was like, Chad, you should go. I don't know anything about whiskey. I'm clueless. You should go up. It sounds like a good thing for you. And you were like, well, I don't know these guys. He asked you, why don't you just come and bring me? And I'm like, okay. So I gave it a shot, and it was a really interesting experience. Like you said, it was just like, they gave us, they're pulling out whiskey bottles that are like you said, that one, this distillery burned down in 1971. There's, 200 of these bottles left in the world or something. And I'm like, oh, well, do we really want to drink it then? He's like, it's made to be drank. Just cracks it open, no problem. And I'll just never forget, he poured me that little first sip, and they're all looking at me just knowing, I think, what's going to happen. I take the sip, and I just like, blast out the spray out of my nose like a dolphin breathing. It's like, they're like, maybe you should cut it with some water. Just, I'm the rookie, I'm the fish. I'm like, okay, it's fine. I'm not going to be embarrassed to be the fish. So cut it with some water. And yeah, it was just a really unique thing that happened. And they were just telling us stories about like hunting for whiskey on Kentucky back roads, gas stations, going to the back of the supply, seeing if there's any bottles from the 1980s and shit. Just such a weird little, I don't know, subculture, I guess you would call it.
What's so great about poker is we have so many subcultures that intersect throughout the poker world. And you and I have been on the front lines of that. I'm appreciative of it. It would take us many more episodes to go through all of our different travels, but I am glad that we had last couple kind of travels, if you will. One was in December. We were both in Las Vegas for the 2020 World Series of Poker final tables that took place there. So that was cool to be able to have one last Vegas adventure with you. And then more recently, you were working the MSPT Riverside, Iowa, allowed me to come down there, stay with you so that I could play. And I managed to finish in 27th place. So of course I'll return the favor. If PokerNews is ever on site somewhere, I'm there. You can stay with me. I know you're quite the player. You've had poker success as well. Welt, you've been working for PokerNews. I know you finished runner-up in an MSPT. You won 2 circuit rings. You made the Global Casino Championship. You're pretty good, and I'm sure we haven't seen the last of you playing poker. Is that a fair statement?
Oh yeah, very fair. I think if anything, I'll get more of a chance to play some big events now. Not only between getting a nice raise, but also obviously not being blocked off by working the events. Like, you know how it is at the WSOP. You caused a little bit of a disaster there for a couple of years, where I think they pretty much wanted to punch us in the face if we ever said the word play a WSOP event. So,
well, does that mean this fall we might see you for the first time fire the World Series of Poker main event? Because if you do it once, Mo, I'm telling you, you're going to want to do it every year.
It could happen. It could happen. I wouldn't rule it out. I'm definitely going to be up there. That's 100%. I'll find at least a week, I think, to come up and fire off. Maybe I can do a bit of a conditional thing where if I cash for any reasonable sum, I can come back. I've been, people have been bugging me to play the main for years, especially I remember a couple years ago. So I took the chip lead into final 27 of the Milwaukee circuit main. And I was just kind of blasting away doing my thing, but unraveled in pretty much a hurry. Final two tables, things did not go my way. I tried a 4-bet bluff with ace 4-0, did not work. Few other hands that went south on me, and actually Kevin Saul ended up busting me. And then I covered him at the main a couple months later, and he flagged me down, and he was like, "Look, you need to be here." He was like, "If you're not here next year, I'm going to be pissed off at you." That's what he said. He was like, promise me you're playing this event next year, because you do not need to be over there. You need to be playing the main event. I was like, I can't promise you, but I'll try. But still hasn't happened. But I think I'll inevitably blow it in the main for sure. So it might not be the best tournament for me. I need a shorter tournament where I can't bluff it off as quickly, but I might give it a shot. Definitely going to give a few tournaments a shot. Looking forward to just being a recreational player up there. I know you said when I interviewed you, when you played that full summer, and you described how much respect you had for poker players that just grind and play their A game, or at least B+ game, day in and day out. You were just like, it really takes it out of you, just getting up every day, playing a full package, playing a full summer. It's really draining. And, I hear that. And I don't think I have any ambition to play a full WSOP. I think I would miss my puppy too much anyway. But yeah, I think playing for a week, 2 weeks, something like that, that's definitely going to be in the cards for me.
Well, Mo, I am excited for your new adventure. Of course, we're going to miss you at Poker News. On behalf of the entire team, of Sarah, myself, it's been, a true honor in being in the trenches with you all those years, finding you and training you at the get-go, and to have you here 8 years later, and just everything that you've done for Poker News. I can't, it's hard to just say how appreciative everybody is. I know everybody is sad to lose you, but excited for your next adventure. And then, of course, hopefully we'll be maybe reporting on you like we did for Gary Gates in the main event a couple of years ago. You're a great player. I've known that. I ask you for advice a lot, and I'm no doubt that you're going to win something. For those listening who want to keep on top of you and follow along, what's the best way to do that? What social media you got?
I think I'm usually on Twitter the most. At Mo Nuwwarah is my Twitter. And yeah, I'll always be usually complaining about beats or retweeting funny sports things for the most part, especially now. But yeah, they'll definitely, if they want to go out and play poker, they will see me, I think, relatively frequently. I definitely see myself making several trips per year for poker. So I definitely won't be a ghost around. I can't imagine myself being as successful as Gary Gates, third or what, he's fourth in the main. That's pretty strong. I can't really dream up that big of a success for me, but like you said, I do hope to win a couple some things here and there. So I'm still going to be excited to see everybody in the poker world at all the stops I get to, and definitely never hesitate to come up, say what up, and I'll probably buy you a beer.
Well, it seems like we every episode are talking about some exciting news to emerge from the United States, either in the live or in the online realm, and quite frequently now in both of those realms. And Chad, we are basically finishing this week's podcast with a celebration in the online space. I'm getting I don't know, I'm starting to sweat. Am I dreaming? Is this really happening for us?
Is it Texas, Chad?
It's not Texas. It's so yeah, some big online news is that Connecticut has legalized online gaming, including online poker. Their governor, Ned Lamont, signed into law House Bill 6451 last week. So we're going to have online gaming, online poker coming via the Mohegan tribe and the Mashantucket Pequot tribe. They're the owners of the state's two tribal casinos, Mohegan Sun and Foxwoods. So this is pretty exciting news. It's still very much in its infancy. I would imagine, though I'm not quite sure at this point, that they will look to join other states. And this to me is just another domino, right? The dominoes started to line up and now we're kind of seeing them fall. I think this may have been ushered in. I've talked about this before as a result of the pandemic. So Foxwoods and Mohegan Sun were shut down during the pandemic. They seen a place like Borgata to the south. They were closed as well, but they had the online gaming wing still open, still thriving. And I think that probably encouraged them to say, hey, we want to start doing this. Look, we've missed out. Let's not miss out any further. They entered discussions with the government, with the governor there, and they got this into law. There's going to be an article up on PokerNews.com about it. And let's hope that this just inspires even more states. I know Illinois is one that's considering an online game and online poker bill right now. And let's get these dominoes down. Let's have 10, 20, 30 states linking forces. And, who knows? The online poker landscape could be very, very different, let's say, in 2025.
Yeah, and along those lines, it does seem like there's some real momentum for Michigan and Pennsylvania to join this interstate act that would allow the player pools of Nevada, New Jersey, Delaware, Michigan, and Pennsylvania to be merged. It looks like Party Poker is somewhat close to launching. In Nevada, I know they extended their gaming license here. So like Chad said, it is all coming together. My final note here, shout out Mo Nuwwarah, and I hope he stays with the Gridiron Gamble podcast. We mentioned Mo as being sharp. He's also regarded as a sharp. Certainly helps out in your NFL betting. So hopefully in the 2021 season, we can still receive some strong plays from Mo.
Oh, right, Mo. Yeah, I'll be listening. I'll be tuning in every week or day or whatever it is. That will definitely be where I will be spending my time on maternity, placing my sports bets. And Mo, we just adore you, man. We'll miss you. And I actually have been talking to some of our PokerNews podcast family out there. We got great feedback about Poker Sasha. So we thank her for coming on the show. Always just give a shout out to our guests. Our guest next week is a mystery, y'all. Who knows who it's gonna be? But of course, I think I know. I know. Oh, is it our girl?
I think it's our girl. Yeah.
Oh, sure. Okay, tell the fam.
Yeah, I think it is the author, the New York Times best-selling author, I should say, of The Biggest Bluff, Maria Konnikova, will join us next week. She also stars in the new documentary from Sol for Why in Poker Go To Be Determined. She has a big role in that. So we'll catch up with Maria next week as her book comes to paperback.
I love Maria. I love a good conversation with her. I don't know if it's her voice, the way she articulates things, it's fantastic. Everything she says, I seem to just be totally sucked into. I'm also sucked into the sound of Chad's dog's feet, prancing around the floor of his room. It's so funny. For those who are listening, who might be wondering what the little clickety clack is when Chad's talking periodically, just know that it's his Weimaraners dancing around, and it's a sight not to be missed, certainly. All right, guys, well, we will catch you next week, of course. Thank you so much for listening. If you love the show, we, of course, would love it if you would rate, review, do all the things if you love the show. And if not, go F yourself. Just kidding. No, I'm serious, actually. They'll really do. Okay, deuces.
Run It Once is a brand new online poker site founded by poker superstar Phil Galfond, who has the player's experience at heart. Run It Once plans to make online poker fun and less predatory while providing ample rewards and innovative features at the same time. All new Run It Once players who download the software via PokerNews are entitled to a 100% deposit bonus worth up to €600. What makes this welcome bonus unique is that you can make as many deposits as you like for that first 30 days after your first deposit. This makes it perfect for those players who do not want to or cannot deposit $600 in one chunk. Be sure to check it out at once.run/pnpod. That's once.run/pnpod.